So back to healthcare for a moment, because you can't discuss this issue and not look at some of the things in Obamacare that went what we believed at the time to be a step too far. And the question is, are they being properly addressed now? Because Rand Paul had an amendment that he wanted placed in this, and apparently that's not going to happen. Erich Pratt is joining us right now from the Gun Owners of America. Erich, how are you?
Hey, doing real well. Good to be with you, Mark.
Well, I'm glad we could get you on the air. It's been a while since we've been able to talk, so that's fantastic. Tell me about this amendment and what Senator Paul's concerns are on this.
Well, obviously, Paul has concerns entirely with the bill, but, we're very grateful that if this bill were to come up in the Senate and they're going to allow amendments to the bill, he's told us that he has this gun amendment ready, which will protect gun owners. And this is very important because without it, the health care legislation will allow doctors, insurance companies, and even the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms to use medical records to further a gun control agenda. And, the irony is Obamacare actually had protections against some of this, but both the Republican bill in the House and the Senate does not. This was something that Gun Owners of America made a big deal over during the original Obamacare fight.
Right.
And, but bless his little heart, his black little heart, Harry Reid, anti-gun senator from Nevada, because of our objections, because he wanted to alleviate these objections in order to get the bill passed, he inserted an amendment into Obamacare that prevented, first of all, insurance companies from using gun information to raise insurance rates, because they would do this if they could. I mean, we already get reports of insurance companies discriminating against gun owners on home insurance, okay?
Right.
So that was one thing his amendment did. The other thing that the Reid Amendment did was it prevented doctors from asking about gun ownership. And that's important because that information then gets centralized under the health care legislation, and then that information becomes available to federal agencies that they control through and use those medical records to deny firearms to good, honest people when they go through the background check. And we've already seen that happen. The VA has done that to more than 250,000 military veterans. They're denied. They can't pass a background check to purchase a firearm. So now what's being done to the military veterans would be expanded to the rest of the American population.
Okay, so it's just a matter of, the version of the bill we saw yesterday, Erich, do we know this amendment was not part of that as far as I could tell?
It's not. No, it's not. And that's why Paul is saying he will offer this as an amendment. Earlier this week, the number 2 guy in the Senate, John Cornyn, was saying when the bill comes up next week, there's going to be what they call a vote-a-rama, unlimited amendments. Now, whether or not that happens, we'll see, because things are changing daily. But if it does, Senator Paul is saying, I'm ready with this amendment to protect gun ownership. And quite frankly, you would think this would be something all Republicans would support because, and that all Democrats would oppose. But what's interesting is that 2 of the things that Paul is protecting, Harry Reid did. So You would think that might even get some Democrats over to support it as well. So we think it'll easily pass with a majority.
Well, that's good. I don't know when or if they're going to get anything passed on this health care bill, but I'm keeping my fingers crossed that maybe they can get something together next week. Erich, let me switch gears for a minute. After the shooting of Congressman Scalise and the others who were wounded and the 2 Capitol Hill police officers, Congress has kind of moved toward, first of all, they're going to fund more security for Congress, but they also want to allow members of Congress to conceal carry if they want to, which I think is great. But the liberals would have got headlines in newspapers across America that in reaction to this shooting, Republicans want looser gun laws. It's unbelievable how they play this.
Right, it is. And, and I would even tweak Republicans if they're only talking about what you mentioned first. which basically is more security for them. I would say, look, we need to protect America first, not just Congress. I mean, I'm all for congressmen being able to protect themselves, and it's a travesty that they can't. It's a travesty that they couldn't have firearms. Well, technically, they could have had firearms with them at that baseball field in Northern Virginia, but then they wouldn't have been able to get back to work. And I don't know, maybe that's a good thing, right?
Right.
Some people might say. But all joking aside, look, it's ridiculous that they're being left defenseless. They should be able to protect themselves just like the rest of us. But quite frankly, the real issue is that there is not reciprocity. In other words, if you can legally carry in one state, you should be able to carry all around the country, including Washington, D.C., just like if you have a driver's license, you can drive all over the country. You can't do that. If you're enabled to carry in your home state, you can't take that everywhere with you all across the country. And that needs to change. If those prohibitions weren't in law right now, I dare see, one representative who was there at the field said that guy would have been taken out by one of my aides, because if this had happened in Georgia, my aide would have had a gun on him. He always carries a gun back at home, and he would have had an easy shot at the bad guy, shooting behind him. So, I think it's an issue. Quite frankly, we need to knock down the restrictions that are preventing people from protecting themselves.
Well, it's another challenge with the District of Columbia, correct? Because they've always had extraordinarily tight gun restrictions. I remember when they tried to charge, was it David Gregory, when he had that AR-15 clip and he showed it on the air, and technically it was illegal for him to even possess that clip in Washington, D.C. at one point.
That's right, and yet, of course, they didn't prosecute him because, the elites, they get special treatment.
Yeah.
But, yeah, D.C. is a hard case, but, there's legislation in Congress. H.R. 38 has over 200 supporters, co-sponsors in the House, and that bill would enable you as a concealed carrier to carry all around the country, including Washington, D.C.
Boy, I hope they vote on that. I mean, everything is so sidelined right now. You wonder how long it may take him to get around to something like that. But boy.
Yeah, it's legislation that will save lives. I mean, we can point to examples where people have died because they were concealed carriers, and in order to remain law-abiding, they didn't take their gun with them into a state that they knew, where it was prohibited. This legislation will save lives, and we are strongly urging, congressmen in fact, the leadership to take this bill up. In fact, if people go to our website at gunowners.org, we have alerts at the top of the page. People can click on it. We have pre-written language that they can send to their representatives urging the leadership to take this bill up immediately.
Yeah, well, good. Well, I hope people go there at gunowners.org and also sign up for those email alerts because you guys stay on top of that. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much, Mark.
You bet. And Erich Pratt, Gun Owners of America, thanks for your time.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
You bet. Yep, thank you.